Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs, ladies and gentlemen. It's such a privilege to have been invited to this exciting event. I've always been a great admirer of liberté, fraternité, égalité. And I believe these things belong together. They are not contradictory. Now, today, I have been invited to talk about liberté. Well, we all love our freedoms. And freedom is under threat. Europe is under threat. Europe needs to find and defend its place in the globalizing world. But as much as we love freedom and love to take advantage of it, we don't always really appreciate it. We see people in Belarus taken to the streets, running the risk of ending up in jail. For us, ourselves, freedom seems to be something that goes without saying. And then we don't even take advantage of our right to vote. So Europe is under threat, and freedom is under threat. And freedom, what does that mean? Freedom does not mean that I can do whatever I want, because freedom has its limits. The limits are where I infringe upon the freedoms of others. So there must be rules in a free, democratic society. And everybody must also take on responsibility for the whole and for the other. So this is why liberté, fraternité, égalité belong together. Well, Europe is in a real serious situation. It is a freedom project in which the balance between freedom and solidarity is spelled out quite well. In my country, we have it cast into the words of Freisinn and Gemeinsinn, thinking in terms of my freedom, but also in terms of my responsibility for the whole. And this is something we need to preserve. This is why in free societies, democratic societies, we must have rules and laws, and everybody is expected to follow these rules. So that's why even let's say, a wannabe billionaire should pay taxes. And this is something that is taken for granted in Europe, but it should not be. Europe is the most important freedom project for the last 75 years. But let's not fool ourselves. Europe is making up the European Union is making up 1/3 of all nations in the world considered free. And according to Freedom House, the number of people governed by democratic, rule of law abiding institutions is going down every year. So we have to defend our values and our way of life together. And no country can go it alone. And last year, President Macron referred to Armel, the great Belgian foreign minister of the 60s, when saying and repeating, there are many small countries in the European Economic Community, or now the European Union. And there are some who have not realized yet that they are small as well, because even the biggest ones in the European Union can preserve and protect their position in the globalizing world only together with the others in the European Union. Now, when we talk about European sovereignty, as President Macron did so eloquently last year, then we must see that we must get better. We must have ambitions. And that means we must become more competitive. More competitive we can become only if we invest more into the brains of our people, if we invest more in our products, in the production processes, and that means we need more innovation. What's the reality? The reality, ladies and gentlemen, is that for 15 years in a row, the European nations and the EU itself are investing 1.5% of GDP less into research, development, and innovation, and on the education field, it doesn't look very much better. So nobody can tell me that this is going to go without loss of competitiveness. So that's why we must move into this very direction. And my institution is, I think, one of the leaders in this field, also in the field of climate change, an issue that we must get under control and take more seriously. We must have ambitions because the globalized, competitive and inclusive Europe can achieve more. It's the best way to safeguard the European projects. And it will be ambitious and expensive, because the last coal miner who will leave the coal mine in southern Poland will not become the boss of a digital startup within 2 weeks or 2 months or even 2 years. So we must invest into this transition. And this transition is needed for the climate world just as well. So we need to embrace the green and the digital transformation. And the COVID crisis has shown us where our weaknesses in the digital dimension are. And we have seen it like under a magnifier glass, where we need to do more, and we do need to do it better. So let's take the COVID disaster and challenge as an opportunity to reform and digitalize and build these economies and this world back better than it was before. So thank you very much for your attention. It was a pleasure to be here.